Hello, hello. Welcome to Dickens and Quips, the podcast that takes the po-faced out of poetry. Join me, Dee Dickens, as I wander around showing you a world of poems that isn't only populated by old dead white men. This week, I have the lovely Dervla O'Brien with me, and I'm very, very excited for reasons I will go into shortly. But first, the official bio. I love an official bio. And I love alliteration, so this ticks a lot of boxes for me. Curious, creative, and quietly chaotic. Nice. Dervla O'Brien is a Northern Irish poet making sense of the world and her feelings, one image at a time. Oh, there we are. Sorry, I lost my place. After an undergrad in computer science in Cardiff University, Dervla turned her attention this year to the arts, namely painting and poetry. Though she's been writing for many years, lockdown, as well as a group called Roth Writers, have pushed her to be vulnerable and share her thoughts with an audience. Dervla will write a poem about anything and everything, but her favourite poems are either about pigeons or love. In the future, she dreams of a job as a theatre prop maker, public educator, or something else which lets her love science, art, and words all at the same time. Pigeons. God, love them. So welcome.
I love pigeons.
Pigeons are wicked. Well, firstly, welcome to the podcast, Dervla. And secondly, yeah, pigeons are boss.
They just have a really bad reputation and I'm on a mission to change it.
And tell you, I'm with you. I am absolutely with you on this. I love it. I love pigeon watching their little communities and seeing who the hard pigeon is and who the flirty pigeon is. It's great fun.
100%. I thought it was just me, but I'm glad somebody else.
Now, what else are you going to do while you're waiting for a bus?
Exactly.
Yeah, pigeon watching, especially at the moment, because you can't really watch people because you can't see the faces. So it's all about the pigeons.
Pigeons don't have COVID.
No, they don't. They don't. And this whole rats with wings rubbish. No, not having it.
Rats aren't that bad either. Anyway.
This is the thing. Rats are just doing their rat thing. So, totally. So what the bio doesn't say is why I'm so chuffed to have Dervla on the show, apart from the pigeon talk. Dervla is what me and my Irish friends would call a dote. I met her at Roth Writers, and not only is she a brilliant poet, you will remember I read one of her poems in the episode with Mathago Craze, but she is generous with her feedback and her laugh. She is what the poetry world needs more of, a woman who writes beautifully and is lovely.
I'm going to cry.
Well, I'm this is the thing, people go, oh, you're so lovely. I'm really not. I'm really
You are.
I refute this. I'm honest. I refute being lovely.
So cute. It's just going to be us flattering each other.
It is. It's just us going to be like, oh, you're the cutest. No, you're the cutest. No, you are. But no, Dervla is the first person I ever know to put palimpsest in a poem, and I was there for it. It was the one I read of hers, The Prayer is a Beautiful Thing, was just blew me away when I was editing it for Roth Writers, and I didn't change a single word. So that tells you that. So on to this week's What You Reading, Dee. This week, I am unashamed about reading two poems from Cake, Liberty and Other Inexplicable Phenomena by Jo Thomas. I am going to be reading The Spectrum and The A Word. They're both fantastic poems from the first volume, Cake, and you may remember they're also Jo Thomas from episode 2. He is an absolute sweetheart and an amazing poet. It says here, Jo Thomas explores his irritation with the world through poetry and prose that flows over the soul in a way that makes you feel invited to a very personal conversation. In turn, tender and raucous, the journey through his world is an adventure you won't want to miss and won't be able to put down. I will admit, I wrote that. because I'm his publisher. But I wouldn't be publishing him if I didn't believe in him. I wouldn't have signed him if I didn't think he could write the crap out of a poem. So first off, I am going to read the A word. I, like countless others, am not an angel, I'm not an alien or a special snowflake. First, I was a child. Today, I am an adult who won't be a baby forever. I know what the A word means. I know its narrative, even worse, its rules. No looking normal, don't be nice. No being clever, don't be funny. No sense of humour, don't make friends. No caring about them, don't feel love. Saying, get better at all the above. But you can talk. Some can recite verses word for word, sing along to favourite songs. Some forget the first line. Listen to my message. Even when my lips are sewn shut, I still hear them speak. It's always about the cot, the rattle, the pram, the nappy and the dummy I'm dressed up in. I still hear them speak, the best of them. They say, watch and learn, whether they know it or not. So that's the A word.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. He's such a quiet bloke. You wouldn't think to look at him possibly that he'd got all this in him. And I think that's the point of the collection. So this is The Spectrum, also by Joe Thomas. To me, it's a burden, yet I hate people with it is not my message. I just hate having it. It is invisible, damaging effects clear as day, traits, mannerisms, holding me back, fucked up exams, my only identity. Catching is off the cards when hands and eyes won't talk. There really is nothing worse than reviews, chats with Mr. Sock and a fucking baby voice. But we get this one thing. Line them up, count them, staring, studying everyone, this row of lovely things. Fine, I'll admit it. I am broken, if that's what you would like to hear. Answer one question for me. Do I look fucking invisible to you? That's The Spectrum by Joe Thomas.
Really good.
Isn't he?
Yeah, it's so raw and so like honest and yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. One of the things I love about Joe's work is that he'll be just, it feels like he's just having a chat with you. And all of these beautiful things come out, and there's always a challenge in there. Like, let me ask you, do I look fucking invisible to you? It's just, I just love his stuff. I just think he's stunning. And the whole collection's like that.
I'll have to read it.
Yes. Well, obviously I'll put the details away and get it in the show notes. But what I do with all my guests is I send them a copy, as you know. So if you drop me your address afterwards, I will get you a copy sent. So
Awesome.
You'll have your own copy of it. So my poem of the week is Dragon Hair. I'm also autistic, which I may or may not mentioned. And this is turning out to be a naughty first half, which I'm not even sad about. And I'm going to read my poem Dragon Hair about sensory issues as a child, which is part of my new collection called Resting Confused Face, which will be coming out at some point with Whiskey and Beards Publishing. Okay, so this is Dragon Hair. I wish I had known why I screamed and wriggled and wailed and cried every time she combed my hair. Now I know I wasn't making a fuss. It was agony, so fraught, it's odd. I sought some sensations, summer breezes, grass on my fingertips, a stick bouncing along railings, flexing my tympanic membrane. Just couldn't bear a brush through my hair, breathing on my neck, breasts on my back. I would snap, but I wasn't a brat. Whatever I believe, I will not believe that. A nice short one from me this week.
Really like that one as well.
Thank you.
It's really wonderful.
I'm just really exploring through my new autism diagnosis, because I didn't get it diagnosed until I was 49. I'm exploring my life and all my past traumas through that lens, and that's been really helpful. It's made me a much happier person to go, oh, I wasn't broken. Oh, that's a thing. Like my clumsiness, finding out that dyspraxia is comorbid with autism has been something that liberates me.
It's so sad how many people get taught they're broken for so many reasons when nobody is. Like, no. That's never true.
No, people never are. And I think Joe won't mind me saying, when we first started at university, everybody had gone off into their little groups, their little cliques, and there was me, Joe, Dale and Shannon and Jess, and we referred to ourselves as the broken ones because we all had issues. It was all like, ugh. But then when we got our degrees, we were all like, fuck it, we were never broken.
No,
we never were.
Just because you've been through stuff other people haven't doesn't mean that you have a perfectly normal response to it usually.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's it was watching Jessica Jones, of all things, that made me think about this a few years back, where they said, oh, Jessica Jones has got PTSD. People are jumping on the PTSD bandwagon. I was like, hang on a minute. Considering what she's gone through, PTSD is the only reasonable response.
Yeah, it's just your brain responding to the stuff going on in your life. It always makes sense.
It does. It always makes. That's the line, that is. Oh, there's a poem in there somewhere. So on to the bit that I love the best. And it's the guest interview. So just a few questions for our Dervla today. And the first one is just a little one. Why is poetry important to you?
When I heard this question, I basically wrote like several poems based on this and tried and work it out. But I think one of the answers I came up with was the idea that you can make tiny things as big as they feel. So if I say that, like, oh, he looked at me, nobody ever really understands as much as if you put a poem. You can make that into a 40-page poem of how he looked, or what you were thinking, or the moment before someone speaks, or the moment after he speaks, and you can just kind of blow things up to as big as they feel in your head.
That's a really good way of thinking about that. I hadn't thought of it like that. Yeah, I suppose, like, you're right. You can say, oh, he looked at me, and all it says is that somebody looked in your direction.
Yeah, and just it's like transferring just the feelings, not just like the actions or what actually happened. It's like, no, but here's everything that was going on in my head.
Yeah, poetry is everything that's going on in our heads. I like that. But I love that idea, because I can say that if I have a nightmare, that Phil gives me a cuddle, but what that doesn't say is how he's my lighthouse, bringing me back to now, how he's my mooring that I tie myself to so I don't float away.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. He's like, oh, we are that couple who are like soppy in love and completely unashamed about it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's nice to be loved. So you kind of started to answer this. What kind of stuff are you writing at the moment?
Well, in lockdown, I've definitely written a lot more than it's been something I've done for many years, but it's really like a bit more front and center right now. And so I've been trying to see if I could maybe get I don't know. I don't want to say the word collection, but like, I'm just going to working towards just making more in general.
Oh yeah, I heard the word collection and my little ears perked up then.
Not quite. We're quite a bit off. But,
yeah, I also have a schedule, so we'll talk. So, I mean, 4 out of the first 5 that we're publishing have been members at some point or another of Roth Writers. So yeah, maybe.
Well, that could be really exciting.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Let's talk at some point when you're ready. When you're ready, know that there is a receptive ear. That's all I'm going to say. So, what have you been reading lately?
I've just started reading. I'm a big fantasy nerd, and for a long time I've read mainly male fantasy authors, and now I'm realizing that there's a whole world of women who write fantasy. So I'm reading Ursula Le Guin and like Tales of Earthsea because I still have never read it, and it's so good. I'm only like a couple of chapters in, and it's so good.
So good. Also, I apologize yet again to Robin Hobb, as we're talking about women fantasy writers, who a couple of weeks ago I said had passed away. It turns out, no, she hasn't. She was willing. I did apologize on Twitter, and she did say no worries. She was glad to confirm she still had a pulse, which was hilarious. So apologies again. Robin Hobb, writer of the Fitz Chivalry books and the Dragonwood books, what have you, and the Fall books, is not dead. She is someone you should read, though, if you haven't, because she's amazing.
I've made a note.
Also, Sarah Douglas, she's very, very good. Seriously, I'm just going to send you a message afterwards with loads of female fantasy writers, because there are loads.
I'm learning this. There's so many good books in the world.
There are, and I don't know what it is, whether it's the time of the generation, whether it's the year, whether it's just something that was always going to happen with the rise of feminism or what have you, but there are a lot of women now who are choosing to read women writers. They're saying, yes, I've read all the men. All these men have been in our faces for so long. Let's see what the women have written.
A lot of the readers, like the stats on readers in bookshops, a lot of the people buying books are women. So it makes it all the stranger that most of the stories are dominated by men. Like it should be more of a 50-50 split at least.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that would seem to make sense. But yeah, I'm doing the same. Same with films. I'd rather try and watch something that's directed by women, is centered around women.
Passes the Bechdel test.
The Bechdel test is a very low bar. And yet, so many fail it. You know that the beginning of Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back, as in, oh my God, Becky, look at her butt, passes the Bechdel test.
Then why can't Marvel movies?
Well, you heard it here first. If some Mix-a-Lot's videos can pass the Bechdel test, why can't Marvel? And yeah, it's a fair point.
I said what I said.
You said, and I stand by not only your right to say it, but exactly what you said too. It's not difficult.
It shouldn't be. It's baffling that it is.
Absolutely. I'm over it. I'm over fridging. I am over seeing women being killed, just as, especially gay women. Gay women get together in something, they're happy, so one of them has to die. It's a thing, like seriously.
I know.
It's just I'm over women dying to further male character arcs. I was like, Deadpool, you nearly got it so right.
I'm over women having to be beautiful to be worth being in a film. Like there's so many things that are wrong with the way we tell stories around women. Like, yeah. and that intelligence only comes as a side. Like there's so many issues. There's so many issues.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm over women who are seen as less conventionally beautiful only being part of the story because they are less than conventionally beautiful.
Or the turnaround when they take off their glasses. Like it's just
Seriously, this is why I
Exhausting.
wear mine all the time. You lot couldn't handle it if I took my glasses off. I mean, I wouldn't be able to see, but it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, more women writers, better representation of women. Marvel, sort your shit out. There we are. So, what poem are you going to read us from somebody else?
So I'm stuck between two. So I'll just ask
Read
you
them
which
both.
one you really?
You can do both then, yeah.
Okay.
What is
it
the
might be
point
small.
of what's the point of me having a podcast if I don't get to say, yeah, do them both?
Fine. Okay. So I'll start with the less. No, they're both not that happy. Never mind. This one is called The Terre Haute Planetarium Rejected My Proposal by Paige Lewis, and they're a non-binary poet from America. And this collection, Space Struck, is just like really, just really smart. Just really, really smart. So the Terre Haute Planetarium rejected my proposal for more tactile audience participation. And sure, their decision makes sense if you consider the fact that no one likes being pelted by meteorites, if you consider the fact that I'm a miserable excuse for a planet, wildly rectangular orbit. I move through life like I'm trying to avoid a stranger's vacation photo. Still, what do astronomers know about public appeal? When naming the color of our universe, they had the chance to vote for either primordial clam chowder or cosmic latte, and they chose the latter. Lately, I've been feeling betrayed by names. The king cobra isn't a cobra, the electric eel isn't an eel, and it turns out my anger was fear all along. I fear that I won't be respected until I can sharp whistle. I fear that I'll come out the other side of rapture with nothing but a taste for rapture. No better than the plowboy prophet who feared his words becoming more dangerous than his hands. Now, with my planetary hopes dashed, I'm revising the lecture on futile repetition. Imagine a line of identical circus clowns, frantically passing a pail of water from a fire hydrant to their burning tent. Now imagine a hole in the bottom of that pail. Why would you imagine such a thing? That tent was their home. See, I'm afraid I'm not used to this much control. I'm a miserable excuse for a weapon, all stopped up with dread, useless. I'm like a snake who, having swallowed its fill of goose eggs, can no longer escape through the gaps in the cage. If you say, trust me, if I say, trust me, you probably shouldn't. Even I don't trust myself enough to end on my own words. But trust me, there are others who are powerfully worse, who mold command into ammo, answers into amnesia. I come from the same place as everyone else, the place where people take and the taking becomes its own person, where everyone hurts and gets hurt and the hurt can be heard asking the same question, why isn't anyone stopping this? And the powerfully worse take a vote. They elect their answer carefully. Stopping what?
Wow, that was incredible.
No.
Wow, and that ending, so abrupt.
I love that ending. I love the line "stopping what" because that just is. There's something about that.
Yeah, there is, and there was something about hunting and hurting, and there was all those H sounds, and I love that.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful poem.
It is. I will put a link to their work in the show notes as ever, so people can get hold of that if they want to have a read, which I would suggest they do. So, your second poem from someone else.
Okay, this one is by an American poet from New York called Sarah Kay, who, yeah, I love her so much.
Love her.
She's probably the reason that she's the first person I remember watching and being like, oh, maybe poetry is something that I could do. Like, it's not just for like angry men. It can also be for really like, she the way she tells poems, she just has such like a sparkle. I love it.
She really does. I shall look forward to this then. Take it away.
Postcards. I'd already fallen in love with far too many postage stamps, when you appeared on my doorstep, wearing nothing but a postcard promise. No, appear is the wrong word. Is there a word for sucker punching someone in the heart? Is there a word for when you're sitting at the bottom of a roller coaster and you realize the climb is coming and you know what the climb means, that you can already feel the flip in your stomach from the fall before you've even moved? Is there a word for that? There should be. You can only fit so many words in a postcard, only so many in a phone call, only so many into space before you forget that words are sometimes used for things other than filling emptiness. It is hard to build a body out of words. I have tried. We have both tried. Instead of laying your head on my chest, I tell you about the boy who lives downstairs, who stays up all night playing his drum kit. The neighbors have complained. They have busy days tomorrow. But he keeps on thumping through the night, convinced, I think, that practice makes perfect. Instead of holding my hand, you tell me about the sandwich you made for lunch, the way the pickles fit so perfectly against the lettuce. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Repeat the same mistakes over and over, and you don't get any closer to Carnegie Hall. Even I know that. Repeat the same mistakes over and over, and you don't get any closer. You never get any closer. Is there a word for the moment when you win tug of war, when the weight gives and all that extra rope comes hurtling towards you? How even though you've won, you still end up with muddy knees and burns on your hands. Is there a word for that? I wish there was. I would have said it when we were finally alone together on your couch. Neither one of us with anything left to say. Still now, I send letters into space, hoping that some mailman somewhere will track you down and recognize you from the description in my poems. He will place the stack of them in your hands and tell you there is a girl who still writes you. She doesn't know how not to.
Wow. That's gorgeous.
It's so good.
Isn't
and
it?
fitting for this time, I was showing that to a friend and they said that that's how they feel quite a lot because COVID and postcards.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, right at the beginning of this poem and towards the end, is there a word for that? Really speaks to what you were saying earlier about poetry allowing things to be as big as they are. It's like it's a postcard, it arrives. No, it didn't. Is there a word for being sucker punched? That is almost like an Ars Poetica, where we're talking about the mechanism of writing the poem, of thinking about writing. And yeah, I loved that. That's lovely. So yeah, it's kind of blown me away. That's one of hers I hadn't heard before. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
And now the bit I'm really looking forward to. What are you going to read us of yours?
It's called To You, Unsure Before Celebration.
Awesome.
Not every dance licks as loud as flame roar confidence, succeeding on bright feet, tall reach, a pride in each beat. One glassy-eyed tutu weaves herself to the weft of the line, where some steps are fragile, tentative ash, to be explored in the fading light. Fairy trails which appreciate a clearer path but disappear like crew in the spotlight. Some unfurling of identity is a small orchid, blooming white only in the night's welcoming dark gloom. In the damp forest, with leaf cover like blankets and violin quiet, keeping the most fearful precious things hidden like baby badgers and newborn owls and any fierce thing before it's learnt to be fierce. When its downy feathers are still an easy feast to roaming fox. The precious is silent, but for midnight rustles of growing, feet stumbling, the girls will come.
As ever, absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your words with us, Dervla. Thank you. I'm so glad you agreed to come on. Really pleased. Excellent. excellent. There are people who I want to have on again and again and again, and you're definitely one of them.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So this week, in lines that make you go, ooh, I'm being cheeky again, and I'm going to read a whole poem, but it is only a short one. Again, this is from Cake, Liberty and Other Inexplicable Phenomena by Joe Thomas, and it's paper. I thought it was really appropriate, being as we met at a writing group and so many people are so into this whole idea of a poetry community, especially in lockdown. So this is paper. Easy to overlook bonds like ours, simple, built on back and forth. You're cool. I made a thing. Out of ink marks, pools of paint, notes on a sheet. It's enough for us.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Isn't it? And it pretty much sums up how I feel about everybody I was at uni with, everybody I went to uni slam with, everybody at Roth Writers. You're all like, I think we've all become, in some sort of literary way, an extension of each other, and it's lovely.
There's something lovely about the
really
friendships
nice.
and communities when you build something together or just make words together. It's really lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. We sit and we create together. It's wonderful, and we laugh a lot. So laughing is good. There's not enough of it, and so many people are having such a tough time during lockdown. Totally get it. I had a really bad one last Sunday when it was announced that England were going back into lockdown. As you may or may not know, I am on my mountain in South Wales, for those of you who are not listening in Wales, and we've been in the circuit breaker lockdown for 3 weeks, which ends Monday. But watching people who I'd seen in pubs not socially distancing, hugging everybody in the street, going, oh no, a whole month where I can't go out, and I haven't really been out of the house apart from to go to hospital since the 20th of March, was a little bit galling, and it got me quite down. But then on the Tuesday, I had arthritis, and it perked me right back up again. About all these, I was quite unwell with this, that and the other I've got going on, but it perked me right up to be laughing and making art with
It definitely
people.
got me through a lot of lockdown as well. I think a lot of people in Roth Writers have really taken it as a thing to, just, it's one of the only things we can do over Zoom, and it doesn't feel much worse over Zoom, whereas a lot of like other social things they're not the same.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like I play Among Us with my uni friends, and that's kind of cool, but that's not on Zoom, so that's all right. So in Llaesnaweth news this week, we have Joe Thomas has a book out. You will remember him from episode 2. Cake, Liberty and Other Inexplicable Phenomena has been mentioned a little bit in this episode. And it's a brilliant look, not only at autism, but asexuality. And you should definitely buy it and read it. Hannah Edge will be coming on the show soon, and her collection will be called Those Days, These Days. And we now have a release date for it, which is January the 1st. The request for proofs has gone off today. It's all really exciting. And yeah, I'm chuffed to bits. That's, again, it's a roller coaster of a collection. It's incredible. We have Redbubble merch now. So if you want a pair of Llaesnaweth socks, or a ridiculously difficult white and Llaesnaweth jigsaw puzzle, or a mini skirt. We actually do leggings and a mini skirt. Then you'll know where to go. I'll stick the link in the show notes. We're not expecting massive sales off this, but anything we do get is going straight into our Pay Your Artists pot. So it means that we'll be able to pay people to do covers and artwork and stuff and proofreading, and it won't just be me going, Phil, help, every now and then. So I am learning a lot. So time for you to do your shameless plug. What is it you do well? I want to hear about where your socials are, what you're up to, and do you make an amazing cottage pie?
I don't. I wish I could cook a lot more than I do. I'm okay. I'm all right. You can find me at Dervla O'Brien on both Twitter and Instagram. And hopefully by the time this podcast is up, I will have launched my Dervla O'Brien .wordpress.com. We'll see. We'll see.
Exciting.
Yes. Just thought that I needed a place to put some poems and stuff, and I felt like an old school blog was the way to go. So, and the one random request that I have as a plug is I am currently curating like a tech festival, but it's like tech and social community festival, which for Mozilla. They make Firefox. Yeah, so they do like a festival every year, and I've been trying to get proposals for submissions, for workshops, for talks, for skill shares, for anything like that. And that's like I'm in the youth zone for it, but for any of the spaces, you can go to just Google MozFest and you can see the call for proposals and get a little bit more information, or tweet me about it, indeed.
Oh, and also if you like, I'll stick a link in the show notes so people can get directly to that. So yeah, no problem with having a plug on that. Thank you very much, listener Roger Waldron. Sent in a poem! Hooray! I'm so happy. I got an email to the Dickens and Quips email that wasn't from Castbox. And I was like, what? But yeah. So Roger Waldron, who sent in this poem after hearing about veggie lasagna, sent a poem called Invite, and here it is. Invite. Inviting me round to talk over your world-beating veggie lasagna. You apologise for the kitchen. Careful, don't stick to the floor. You talk about being married, that B&B in Scarborough where they asked if we wanted dessert, which turned out to be pears and sticky rice pudding. You asked if we'd ever be a pair again. You asked if I would like pudding, afters, etc. I declined all three, careful not to stick to your floor, wondering what makes you think like that. Ooh. Well done, Roger. Well done. I love that too. There's a lot in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
An awful lot in that. So well done, really chuffed. And that is about it. So thank you for listening. I have been Dee Dickens, and as ever, you have been marvellous. You can get in touch with the show on dickensandquips@gmail.com or on Twitter and Insta as Dickens and Quips. I am not Pontius Pilate. I am the Potty Poet on Twitter myself, or Dee Dickens, Poet and Author on Facebook. And please do let me know what's going on in your area. If you want to come on the show, hit me up. Don't forget to subscribe so I can get in your log holes. Next week, I have Satara Ebrahami, and we will be reading from Imagined Sons by Carrietta. It's going to be emotional. And I leave you with the prompt of the week. This week it is, to honour Roger Waldron, it is sticky floors. Pop it in an email and I will read it out on next week's show. This just leaves me to say thank you so much to Dervla O'Brien once again. It's been an absolute joy, and I hope you will come back on at some point.
Oh, I'd love to. And thanks so much for having me. It's been really lovely.
You're more than welcome. So take care and make good choices, or at least try. And if you cannot make good choices, then that's what writing poetry is for. Ta-ta, see you again.